Good morning. Tuesday, June 15th, coming to you live from Seoul. I'm Kim Mo-gyan. Before we begin, these are the stories we're following at the top of the hour. During a state visit to Austria, President Moon Jae-in met with Austrian Chancellor Sebastian Kurz and President Alexander Van der Bellen. Following the meetings, Seoul and Vienna agreed to upgrade relations to a strategic partnership with cooperation on a variety of sectors, including the fight against climate change. South Korea continues to ramp up its vaccination campaign. As of Tuesday, just over 12.5 million people in the nation have received at least one dose of a COVID-19 vaccine. And BTS's single Butter topped the Billboard Hot 100 chart for the third week in a row, breaking its previous record set with Dynamite, which debuted at #1 upon release and held the top spot for 2 weeks. We start with President Moon Jae-in's state visit to Austria. The two countries have agreed to become strategic partners. Through this, the two sides will expand bilateral cooperation into more diverse sectors. Hong Yu has our top story.
South Korea and Austria have upgraded their relations to a strategic partnership. President Moon Jae-in and the Austrian Chancellor Sebastian Kurz agreed that the two countries are future-oriented cooperation partners and that they will enhance their cooperation in diverse sectors such as economy, science and technology, as well as culture and arts.
오늘 서명한 이중 과세 방지 협정은 기업 활동의 투명성을 높이고 양권 투자 확대에 기여할 것입니다.
The two sides came to an understanding that a strategic partnership is crucial in such fields, and so we have signed the double tax avoidance agreement and an agreement to practice cultural exchanges for teenagers.
Prior to his talk with Kurz, Moon had a bilateral summit with the Austrian President Alexander Van der Bellen. Both Kurz and Van der Bellen agreed with Moon on closely cooperating to respond to climate change, such as expanding eco-friendly future industrial cooperation. In the bilateral summit between Moon and Van der Bellen, two sides agreed to combine Austria's capability in science and South Korea's industrial capabilities to achieve win-win results. The Austrian Chancellor and President also reaffirmed to President Moon their support for peace on the Korean peninsula. During a joint press conference after the bilateral summit between the two presidents, President Moon announced that South Korea will actively promote COVID-19 vaccine aid for North Korea if the regime agrees.
한국이 글로벌 생산 허브의 역할을 할 경우에 북한도 당연히 협력 대상이 됩니다. 북한이 동의한다면 북한의 그 백신 공급을 협력하는 것을 적극적으로 추진하겠습니다. 미국도 북한에 대한 인도주의적 협력에 대해서는 적극 지지하고 있다는 말씀을 드립니다.
He added that it is only when the vaccines are distributed fairly to developing and underdeveloped countries that the world can become free from COVID-19. The Austrian President Van der Bellen also said that if North Korea sends a signal that they want aid for vaccines, Austria will definitely help. Hong Yu, Arirang News.
The U.S. reportedly has no immediate plan to directly provide COVID-19 vaccines to North Korea, but supports international humanitarian aid efforts for the reclusive regime. This, according to an official from the State Department in an interview with South Korea's Yonhap news agency on the U.S. stance. Earlier, South Korean President Moon Jae-in in a press conference in Austria said South Korea is seeking to actively supply North Korea with vaccines if the regime agrees, and that he believes that the U.S. is actively supporting humanitarian cooperation for North Korea too. North Korea claims to have no new confirmed cases of COVID-19 within its borders. President Moon also met with the mayor of Vienna, where he expressed hope for more cooperation between South Korea and the Australian capital on a variety of fronts. He later met with the Speaker of the Australian Parliament's lower house to discuss ways to promote their strategic partnership at the parliamentary level. Lee Kyung-eun reports.
President Moon Jae-in has expressed hope that Vienna, known for its creative and sustainable urban development, will cooperate with South Korea's local governments in various smart city initiatives. President Moon met on Monday with Vienna Mayor Michael Ludwig as part of his state visit to Austria. He said Vienna is a model case he wants to know more about.
지난해 테러의 충격을 슬기롭게 극복하며 도시 재생과 스마트 시티 분야에서 앞서가고 있습니다. 앞으로 비엔나시와 한국 지자체 간에도 보다 활발한 교류와 협력이 이루어지기를 기대합니다.
President Moon also asked the city to pay special attention to ethnic South Koreans in Austria, with roughly 80% of the 2,700 South Koreans in Austria calling Vienna home. Ludwig thanked President Moon for visiting and praised him for his efforts for peace and human rights.
I think it's very important for cooperation on the economic and political front, especially in terms of international relations. I'd like to express Austria's support for peace and labour market issues, like the minimum wage.
Later Monday, President Moon met Wolfgang Sobotka, the Speaker of the Austrian Parliament's lower house, to discuss measures to develop bilateral ties, especially at the parliamentary level. He was accompanied by 2 South Korean lawmakers who joined him as special delegates. President Moon called on Austria to beat the pandemic based on the two sides' mutual trust and to prepare for the post-COVID era as strategic partners. Young-eun, Arirang News.
President Moon's visit to Vienna this time marks the very first state visit by a South Korean leader to Austria, but diplomatic relations between the two countries date back to nearly 130 years ago. But not only that, from trade, business, culture, and people-to-people exchange, the two nations have been boasting strength and bond in a wide range of areas. And the relations are about to expand further and deeper. Our Kim Sang-min gives us a brief history of Seoul-Vienna ties.
South Korea and Austria. Their bilateral relationship goes back to 1892, when official diplomatic ties between the Korean Empire and the Austro-Hungarian Empire were established. While there have been no presidential visits by South Korea until this current trip, high-ranking officials from the two countries have made visits to each other several times, strengthening their ties in various areas. And in 2020, when the pandemic started to rage across borders, President Moon Jae-in shared South Korea's experiences in handling the virus during a phone call with Austrian Chancellor Sebastian Kurz. Despite the pandemic, the two countries' economic ties have gotten only stronger. The total trade volume between the two in 2020 amounted to almost $2.7 billion, up 11% on year. South Korea's exports to Austria last year jumped 23% on the back of strong performances in computers, electric vehicles, and semiconductors. Culture is another field where the two countries have a strong bond. The most symbolic event is the Austrian-Korean Philharmonic Orchestra. Every year in Vienna, young Korean and Austrian musicians perform together. Established to strengthen cultural exchanges between the two, the orchestra is a gateway for South Korean musicians to showcase their talents. Based on the first presidential visit by Moon Jae-in, the ties between the two countries are expected to expand further into other areas, including science and technology. Kim Sang-min, Arirang News.
Staying with the president's trip to Austria, South Korea's First Lady on Monday highlighted the need for efforts to protect endangered plants threatened by climate change. Kim Jongsuk, who's with her husband on his state visit, visited the botanical garden at the University of Vienna, along with her Austrian counterpart. The garden is home to some 12,000 types of plant from 6 continents. She vowed active efforts to tackle climate change, noting that the world agreed to work together at a multilateral climate summit hosted by South Korea in May. Earlier in the day, she visited a museum in Vienna, and on display were the armor and helmet of a prince from the Joseon dynasty, which was a gift from Korean Emperor Gojong to the Emperor of Austria, Franz Joseph I, after the two sides established diplomatic relations in 1892. Kim expressed hope that bilateral ties remain as solid as the way the gifts have been preserved. South Korea reported 374 new COVID-19 cases Tuesday, staying below 400 for the second day in a row. Of Tuesday's cases, all but 27 were locally transmitted. 4 more people have died, raising the death toll to 1,992. As the nation ramps up vaccination efforts, more than 12 million people have received at least 1 dose of a COVID-19 vaccine as of Tuesday morning. Novavax says its COVID-19 vaccine is more than 90% effective in late-stage clinical trial. The study was conducted on nearly 30,000 volunteers in the U.S. and Mexico, showing overall efficacy of 90.4%. The vaccine was also shown to be 93% effective against variants. It also found the vaccine was 100% effective in preventing moderate and severe cases of the virus. South Korea so far secured 40 million Novavax doses and will get up to 20 million more within the third quarter. NATO has for the first time recognized China as a country that poses systematic challenges, with its members agreeing to beef up responses to counter Beijing. The alliance also called on North Korea to engage in dialogue to achieve denuclearization. Kim Hyo-sun reports.
The U.S. and the 29 other NATO member states are urging North Korea to resume, quote, meaningful dialogue with the U.S. to achieve complete, verifiable, and irreversible denuclearization. In a joint communique issued following their summit in Brussels Monday, the leaders also emphasized the need to fully implement UN Security Council resolutions on the regime. NATO also called on the North to fully implement its international obligations, including the elimination of missiles and nuclear arsenals, as well as returning to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. NATO leaders also echoed the need for Iran to cease all ballistic missile activities, endorsing the revival of the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. Also topping the agenda was how NATO should address the challenges posed by a more aggressive Russia and a rising China. For the first time, NATO explicitly moved to confront China's ambitions, with its communique stipulating that Beijing poses systematic challenges.
NATO leaders called on China to uphold its international commitments and to act responsibly in the international system, including in space, cyber, and maritime domains, in keeping with its role as a major power.
NATO also said Russia continues to breach the values, principles, trust, and commitments of international agreements. While Moscow has strongly opposed NATO membership for Ukraine, the country's president said he welcomes a NATO statement confirming its eventual entry. Ukraine has been pushing to join NATO for over a decade now and appears intent on accelerating the process, which its president reportedly says Kyiv wants a clear yes or no answer from the alliance. Kim Hyo-sun, Arirang News.
BTS has maintained the #1 spot on Billboard's main chart for the third straight week in their latest single, Butter. It makes the song the group's longest chart topper. Lee Seung-jae has a story.
BTS's single, Butter, is without doubt the hottest song in the US right now, with the song topping the Billboard Hot 100 chart for the third week in a row. It means the group has now surpassed its previous record set with Dynamite, which debuted at #1 upon release and stayed there for 2 weeks. While Dynamite later reclaimed its place at the top of the chart after spending 2 weeks at #2, Butter is the group's first to stay at #1 for 3 straight weeks. According to Billboard on Monday, Butter held on to the #1 spot with 15.4 million US streams and 138,400 downloads in the week ending June 10th. It also attracted over 24.6 million radio airplay audience impressions, up 10% from the previous week. The song has been a mega hit, not just in the US, but globally as well. The single topped iTunes' Top Songs chart in more than 100 regions, as well as in South Korea and Japan just a day after its release. The song also debuted at #3 on Britain's official charts, tying with Dynamite. Butter has also shattered records Dynamite held previously on other platforms, such as YouTube and Spotify. The latest single garnered 20.9 million streams on its first day of release, becoming the most listened to song in a single day in Spotify's history. It also racked up 108.2 million views on YouTube in its first 24 hours, beating Dynamite and its previous record of 101.1 million views. Released on May 21st, BTS hoped the vibrant summer number would give off good energy during the pandemic. But can BTS make it 4 weeks straight? We'll find out next week. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Now moving over to the world of ballet, South Korean ballerina Park Sae-eun has become the first Asian ballet dancer in history of Paris Opera Ballet to become an etoile, meaning star in French. Our culture correspondent Kim Bo-kyung tells us who she is and what it means to be named an etoile.
J'attendais ce moment depuis tellement longtemps que j'ai l'impression que ça fait des années. J'ai travaillé sur 2 mètres carrés de lino dans mon appartement pour rester en forme. C'était difficile.
After 10 years of persistent effort, South Korean ballerina Park Sae-eun has finally become a star in a world-class French ballet troupe. Paris Opera Ballet announced Park as an etoile dancer to a standing ovation after she performed in Romeo and Juliet as the lead at the Opera Bastille on Thursday local time. Founded in 1669, the Paris Opera Ballet is one of the most renowned ballet companies in the world, along with the Royal Ballet and American Ballet Theatre. Park is the first Asian dancer to be promoted to an etoile dancer, the highest level dancer in 352 years of the ballet company's history. Being an etoile is an honor reserved for just a handful of dancers in the company, including Ludmila Bagliero, who became the first Latin American etoile in 2012. It's quite the rise for Park, who joined the Paris Opera Ballet in 2011 as a 1-year temporary contract ballerina. Park moved step by step up the company's 5 ranks, reaching the second highest status first dancer in 2016, before finally becoming an etoile this year, as one vacancy was available after an Italian ballerina retired. Kim Yong-gol, who was the first Asian male dancer to be a part of the Paris Opera Ballet in 2000 and retired in 2009, says Park's achievement is something else.
Being an etoile is not a promotion, it is an appointment. There's a rule that only 5% of troupe can be foreigners, and the rest of them are French. Even those 5% are almost all Europeans. Park becoming an etoile is unbelievable. To be an etoile, one needs to be not only great, but also needs to understand the country's culture, language, and have good relationships.
With her elegant and fluid movement, Park has awed Paris, and now is getting ready to perform her first show as the etoile on Romeo and Juliet on June 16th. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
Welcome. It's time for The World Now, bringing you some of the most interesting news from around the globe. I'm Ji-young. Going 3 times and sold for $28 million. At space travel company Blue Origin's auction, someone just placed the winning bid for the chance to fly into space with Amazon founder Jeff Bezos next month.
How exciting was that? $28 million. That was my first auction I've ever seen live. What an incredible experience. $28 million. What a day. What a day. Wow. Okay. Well, the whole Blue Origin team cannot wait to meet our first customer. They're going to join Jeff Bezos and his brother Mark on this historic human flight on New Shepard in just 5 weeks, July 20th. It is going to be an experience of a lifetime.
The company said the identity of the winning bidder will be disclosed to the public in the following weeks once paperwork has been done. Roughly 7,600 registered bidders from 159 countries competed at the live auction for the right to travel into space with Bezos. The space voyage is set to last about 10 minutes, and Bezos said in a video before the final bidding that seeing Earth from space will be life-changing. Amid the pandemic, face masks has become one of the most common types of waste in our garbage bags. To stop masks littering the environment, a Spanish company, Bioinicia, claims to have come up with a sustainable solution, the world's first biodegradable face mask. Not only is it better at protecting the environment, the company says its masks made with nanofibers are better than traditional face masks in terms of protecting wearers from coronavirus.
To make a comparison, traditional face masks would have the porosity of a tennis net, with the virus being the size of a pea. On that scale, our grid would be equivalent to a mosquito net.
He added that he doesn't know of any manufacturers in the world that provide composable face masks offering real protection. According to a report released last year by advocacy group Oceans Asia, nearly 1.6 billion masks ended up in the oceans in 2020 alone. It also says traditional masks could take up to 450 years to break down. Natty and Tilly, pugs known for their big fashion statements, showed off their matching outfits at the annual Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show. About 2,500 dogs competed at this year's event, which has been held every year since 1877. Due to New York State COVID-19 restrictions, the show wasn't open to spectators, but one dog lover said it's their dream to win one of the awards at the show. The winner of this year's contest was a Pekingese named Wasabi.
Good morning. Have an umbrella handy. Rain is in the forecast nationwide. Showers started in the capital from the morning hours, and rain will spread to the entire country over the coming hours. And the further south you are, the heavier rainfall you're going to receive. In fact, hot and moist air will drop heavy rain on Jeju, so please brace for heavy rainfall if you're there. Meanwhile, the south will see rain into tomorrow dawn, while the rain will stop in the late afternoon in the central parts of the country. And today's rain will bring some relief from the heat. Highs will be 3 to 4 degrees lower than yesterday, hovering in the mid-20s across Korea today. So Daegu and Jeju should make it to 25 degrees Celsius, while Gwangju will be topping out at 24 degrees. Warmth and sunshine should return tomorrow other than the East Coast and Jeju Island. And it seems like Jeju will get frequent rain this week, while nationwide rain is in the forecast once again on Friday. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the weather conditions around the world. That will do it for us at this hour on Arirang News. We'll be back at noon Korea time, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
The fiercest battleground.